I came across this video of the Yankees catching coordinator working with his guys during spring training. The video is all throwing, which fires me up because I love throwing. And it's also super rare to get video of the best throwers in the entire world throwing in a controlled environment. And in this video, we get to see their good throws as well as their bad throws. This video is an absolute gem, and I'm gonna walk you through what these guys are working on, how they move, and a bit of a breakdown of their mechanics, and essentially what allows these guys to be so smooth in a controlled environment so that hopefully you can learn something by hearing me break these things down and apply it to your own throw.
Got JC Escara, Austin Wells, Peyton Henry, Miguel Palma, Ali Sanchez.
We got the Yankees catching coordinator. Something that I love that they do is Aaron is their run prevention and catching coordinator. I don't know of that many teams that actually call their catching coordinator a run prevention coordinator. I think that's a really cool title.
Ali Sanchez. About to show it off. When you spend any time with JC Escara, it's impossible to not be fired up.
Unbelievable. We're fired up. We got good energy.
We're ready to go.
Get the ball airborne.
Right here, as he's addressing his catchers, is the first real bit of coaching that we get. What he tells these guys is get the ball airborne. We're just trying to get the ball out of our hand quickly right now. He's essentially telling these guys, hey, what we're working on early in this drill is just getting the ball out of our hand, quick exchange, and efficient mechanics that are going to lead into that quick exchange. And we're going to see how these guys work and just how fast they get the ball out of their hand and the mechanics behind, how they're able to actually do this.
We got the dummy, okay? We intentionally we're not going to have a receiver out there. I want you to hit the dummy.
So now he's saying that
$100 donation.
they're throwing at a dummy.
Dinner. In each of anybody's name who hits the dummy.
And whoever hits it gets a donation.
We got our guy.
So just a cool little incentive for these guys. So here we go. So we start throwing off the rip. And you can just see how smooth these guys are and how short their movements are.
187.
So right there, Coach Aaron just said, hey, that was a 77-mile-an-hour throw, and it was a 187 pop time. The difference between a controlled environment pop time and an in-game pop time. When these guys are only focused on throwing, we can see they're moving extremely smooth, and it almost looks like they're moving in slow motion, but they're hitting these elite pop times, these 187s with, 77, upper 70s, low 80s velocity. A really high level catcher in a controlled environment is going to be right around that 1.9 mark with high 70s, low 80s velocity, and it's going to look smooth. It's going to look effortless.
What's your best, Jay? 73, 77, 187.
What we notice about the first catcher that throws is he's going from this
Got some nickel
right knee down, and then he's transitioning into a 2 feet stance, and then he's moving into his throw. And then our second catcher is going to be working from a right knee down stance, but there's something really interesting about what he does in this stance. What we notice is his right foot is going to be outside of 90, so we would call this an obtuse angle. When the ball is coming towards him, he does something very important. So there's the runner call, meaning somebody's probably dropping one into the machine at this very instant to simulate the same timing as a pitcher lifting his heel in a game. What our catcher then does, he went from this obtuse angle to bringing his foot in underneath his knees. A big problem that I see with a lot of high school catchers that catch from a right knee down stance, they will leave their foot outside of neutral, and we see the best catchers in the entire world. Whenever it is a runner taking off situation, they're always going to bring this foot inside and neutral, somewhere right around underneath their lead knee, to get them to be able to create momentum into their throw without having to extend over their front side to get that momentum going. Pause where the ball hits this catcher's glove. You can see his connection to his backside is very strong. When the ball hits your glove, we should be maintaining strong connection to our backside. By him bringing his lead foot in, it allows him to stay very compact, which is then going to allow him to get his back foot planted extremely early because it didn't have to travel that far. and then he's got a lot of time to separate and then get through and make the throw. When we talk about getting the ball out of our hand quickly, that means that every piece of our mechanics leading up to the exchange needs to be very tight and compact. If we're getting outside of ourselves, if we're seeing long movements, that's going to lead into a long exchange. And, the whole purpose of this drill is get the ball out of your hand. These guys are not worried about velocity. They're worried about getting it out of their hand, throwing upper 70s. Realistically, these guys could probably ramp up and throw in the 80s, but they know that that is not optimal. It's not sustainable. So they're just trying to get the ball out of their hand and, trusting that their mechanical efficiency is going to get that carry that they want.
Runner! Fantastico!
How's the honey?
Woo!
So you just nailed the dummy.
Runner! Money.
Okay,
Jay.
this is one of the coolest throws right here.
Runner!
When we think about our direction to second base, we just need to commit to the direction that our hips are going. And this requires a lot of athleticism. This requires a lot of practice. But what we notice about this catcher is when he gets up to throw, because this pitch is low and away, he naturally has to push his hips out in order to create the momentum he needs, but let this pitch, get to him. He has now committed to this line with his hips because he's pushed out. So if we were to draw his line through second base, this is pretty much it. From his back hip through his front hip towards his target, this is his line that he now needs to work on because he is committed to that line. He keeps his hips on this line, and we see this, what some people would call a sidearm arm action, but simply because his hips have peeked out from underneath him, instead of him trying to get his hips back underneath and throw over the top, which is, inefficient, he just commits to that low arm slot. Essentially, the arm slot is always going to work off of our spine angle. So if our hips peek out and we are dipped over and our chest is facing the ground, then we're going to commit to this lower arm slot, and the arm action is going to work the same way. So just having that assurance of, your arm action and how things work is going to allow you to be adaptable to different pitch locations and also still see good times and good velocity without trying to force different things.
Money, Jay. Money. Runner! Yeah! Great throw. Too much ride. We ride? Okay, let's ride. Got the boys motivated.
Okay, so now this right side angle does a really, really great job of just highlighting the entire throwing sequence, regardless of if we go from a right knee down setup or a traditional setup or some kind of hybrid where we hop into a traditional from a right knee, whatever it is that you choose to use, the mechanics of the throw and the principles of the throw are pretty constant regardless of the stance. As this ball, we can kind of hear it on the slow motion, but it's coming out of the machine like right now. So we want to pay attention to everything that this catcher is doing before the ball hits his glove. What we can see is right there, the ball hits his glove. And if you notice, something is happening to lead him into that throw. And what it is he's driving his front knee directly towards his target, because wherever he drives this front knee, essentially that's where he's going to pull his hips. And that's the line that he's going to follow through his throw. We're coming inside of neutral with that lead foot to establish the ability to drive that knee, which pulls our hips online. During the transfer phase of our throw, his hips do not stop moving forward. There is a continuous drive of his lower half. We can see that this hip is going to continue on his line to second base while the transfer rotation and planting of the back foot is happening, which is allowing him to get separation of his lower half while he rotates and loads into his backside. So you can see when his back foot hits, he's already in a really high degree of separation very fast because that front hip never stopped gaining momentum forward. A lot of high school catchers will create some kind of a knee drive and then stop and then catch, rotate, and then try to re-engage their separation. But when we watch the really high level throwers do this, this front hip never stops leading their throw, even through the transfer and rotation. That front hip is always separating away from them, and then they create a lot of separation very early, and then boom, they use all of that tension to pull them through their throw. That's how they get the ball out of their hands so fast and still create, a lot of velocity on their throws.
75,
So he threw that
187,
175. He
We've
hit
been fortunate to have
a
a lot of really good catches.
187 and he hit the dummy. So that was like a perfect throw. Like that throws money. If you did that at a showcase, people would notice you. If you were a high school catcher that could throw this smooth, people would notice you. One of the things that I really like about this throw is how he pulls the ball from his glove. So when he pulls everything, we talk a lot about separation, right? So between this elbow and this elbow, he's creating a high degree of stretch between these 2 points. And between this knee and this knee, he's creating a good stretch between his backside and his front side. All of this is like stretching that rubber band. The harder we pull this thing, the easier we're going to get pulled through our throw, the more velocity we're going to create, backspin, all that good stuff. And we can see just all of the things that lead up to this point are what allows him to get just so much depth in these positions that allow for not only a quick exchange, but a strong velocity where these guys are hitting 187s and being extremely accurate with what looks like not a lot of effort. And then they're going to go ahead and conclude this video with some throws to first base. And we can see that regardless of the throw that these guys are making, they're staying within certain mechanics, certain principles of the throw. On this throw, he's going to throw to first base. And what we can see is as this ball travels towards him, again, we can see the front side is initiating momentum towards the target. The way that we teach it at Pro Point Catching is we want to drive our lead knee towards our target. I know a lot of guys are taught to kind of dip the front side in, which is fine. It does work. As long as you're staying consistent about your line to second base that you're following with your hips, it's fine. Regardless, what we see with these guys is they initiate a clean line towards their target with their lead knee as the ball is traveling towards them. And then as the transfer happens, the front side is maintaining momentum and separating away from the backside to create that stretch, which ultimately pulls them through their throw. That's how they can get, quick exchanges and, a high degree of velocity, regardless of the throw they're making, is all of these principles, that work in the throw, regardless of the base we're going to. And then same thing, if we watch a throw to third base, this ball is right here, but you can see that his lead knee is already breaking for third base, and his hips are now initiated onto this line towards his target, and he's just going to ride that line through his throw, have a high degree of separation already once his back foot hits, and then that's what creates that extension and backspin through our throw. So really cool video. Shout out to the Yankees for posting this video. This video was an absolute gem. And if you're a high school catcher or their parent, my name is Coach Nick. I run the Drop Your Pop Time program. We post a lot of our results and some more specifics about the program on Instagram. You can reach out to us. It's Pro Point Catching on Instagram. Look through our page. You can even send us a message with the word Pop Time on Instagram if you think that our program might be a good fit for your athlete.